Back on track. West Coast get out of Dodge with consecutive wins as hub life in Queensland comes to an end. The 33-point victory over the winless Crows was unspectacular but crucial. The Eagles' record now at 3-3 in this remarkable 2020 campaign. The team returned to Perth with a relatively healthy list and some confidence ahead of a string of home games. Welcome to this week's episode of Eagle Review, proudly sponsored by Kennards Hire. Shop in store or online, kennards.com.au. Tyson Beattie, welcome back to the desk. That was not the best game of footy I've ever seen in my time.
Well, Stephen, it was a solid win, but ultimately it was a win against an Adelaide side which is really struggling through injuries and form. But I think the coaching staff and the fans can take a lot out of it, especially in those statistical categories, which we'll dive into a little bit later. But Simo did say after the game that the nature of the hub has actually helped the team progress their game plan and adapt their game plan to the 2020 season, so that everyday interaction has really been a benefit.
Yeah, more time spent with them, able to tinker. I mean, when you're overhauling a game plan, it takes time. Would they have been as effective doing it from home? Well, that's the question. It was always going to be a tough ask for the winless Crows. I mean, they're averaging 5 goals a game in 2020. They're missing their key focal point up forward in Tex Walker, been their star up there for the last decade. And Fogarty, the up-and-coming youngster, he's not playing as well. But they looked hot early. I mean, their ball movement was crisp. They were playing a possessive type of game style, a bit of keepy off the West Coast, and it was working for a fair portion of the game, but just weren't able to sustain it in the end. I think all three lines get a tick as far as Adam Simpson and the coaches are concerned. Let's start with the engine room, though. I thought they were very impressive. Looked to be gelling well. It has been the best 2 games from the West Coast midfield, but they have been against opponents that probably won't make finals come the end of the season. But to do it without skipper Luke Shuey in the middle, I think, it gives them a greater sense of credit in this work.
Absolutely. It was midfield domination, Stephen. If you look at it, 25 plus inside 50s. That's terrific. You look at Sheed, he was really, really good. He came into the game a lot. 24 disposals, 6 inside 50s. Redden, 18 touches, and also a couple of really crunching tackles as well.
We'll have more time in the centre bounce, obviously, with Shuey out. So Sheed has been the main beneficiary from that. It was good to see Elliot Yeo get back to some dual best and fairest winning form over the last fortnight. 21 touches, 8 inside 50. Led the team for metres gained. But Tim Kelly's the player I want to touch on, TB. I mean, he looked electric. 25 disposals, 10 contested. 8 clearances, so clearly getting on the same page as Nick Nat, that cohesion finally coming together. It was always going to take time. How's this little paddle here and collect? Very impressive. Feed to Redden, quality finish from just outside 50. But questioned by an AFL Hall of Famer as an interesting start to his West Coast career.
Yeah, it's interesting. Gary Lyon, former Demon legend, big AFL media personality, he was questioning that Tim Kelly's influence on the game, having come 4th in the Brownlow last year in that star-studded midfield at Geelong. Is he a guy that's only playing well when everyone else is playing well? That's the question. I suppose you can't really answer that until the end of the season.
No, I mean, 3 losses has made Gary want to question that motive and whether he can dig deep in those teams that aren't travelling great. It was an interesting one. I wanted to have a brief look at what Adam Simpson said about Tim Kelly post-game against the Crows.
I think anyone in this environment at the moment would find it hard to get any routine or adapt. Like he's flown his family over. He's been living in a hotel with 3 kids. I don't know how he's done it. He's done a good job. So, I mean, it's not a bang or bust situation. He's 25. So this is a long-term investment with Tim. So we think, touch wood, he can play him well into his 30s. So let's judge him at the end of that time.
So Simo with some interesting points there. Obviously, he's in a new system. He's dealing with the hub life. He's got kids in the hotel room and he's improving every week. So I think expectations are really, really high for Tim Kelly. He also, people know more about his game now, so he's getting targeted more. Another guy that was targeted pretty heavily on the weekend was Andrew Gaff.
Yeah, 2nd game in a row he's been heavily tagged, this time from Keys. Held him to 12 disposals. I don't think you'll get Gaffy under 20 too often in his career. But with Shuey out, it's an interesting move. They want to put Gaff on ball because this is what it can create. Let's have a look at these 2 clips here. So you see Gaff in the CBD. He's essentially standing where the hit zone's going to be. Now, all Gaffy has to do with a dominant ruckman like Nick Nat is just move out the way and there's your hit zone space. Same again with this boundary throw-in. Now, you can't do this every single time. The opposition will start to catch on. Where's Gaffy? That's where it's going. But to have it in your arsenal, go to it every 3 or 4 times, very handy, especially trying to deal with this gaff tag situation.
Absolutely. Now, Stephen, one of the big talking points of the week was the Riley O'Brien, Nick Nat Nui Twitter mishap.
You love it, don't you?
Absolutely. Riley O'Brien tweeted his game notes out so the whole world can see him. Now, first mistake here. What's wrong with a good old-fashioned pen and paper? He's trying to find his notes section on his app. His phone is broken. Instead, he tweets all of the game notes out. including, have a look at this here, lazy and unfit. How's that to fire up your opponent, Stephen?
Well, I've also heard some interesting conspiracy theories out there in the time. I mean, has he downloaded a broken screen application to make it seem like his mare wasn't, was justifiable? How are you honestly writing notes when your screen looks like that? And that looks like one of the default settings of the broken screen app. So I love the theories because this dude is a smart cookie. 99.7 something in his TAR or whatever it is.
He's going to be a surgeon, isn't he?
He is going to be a surgeon. Like, he's not your stereotypical ruckman. So I'm not buying this. I've accidentally clicked 3 separate buttons of what it would take to get your notes to Twitter. Something's a bit fishy here, TB.
Definitely more to it. Anyway, the response from the club, we didn't really say much before the game. After the match, however, when they shook hands, Nick Naitanui gave him a brand new Samsung, thanks to Telstra. Class all round from Mr. Naitanui.
Well, it's funny because Nick Nat said after the game, I'm a bit worried. Now every ruckman's going to want to sledge me and tweet their notes so they get a free phone. That's a fair worry from Big Nick Nat. But I want to look at some stats because it's an interesting one to see who won the battle in the end. Getting the W is obviously going to sway it in your advantage. Let's have a look at some of the numbers then. When they were going in the ruck together, 23 hit-outs to 10. What about hit-outs to advantage? 6 to 2. So that's a big tick for Nick. They were plus 11 clearances when they did battle, so big tick there. O'Brien was quality around the ground. You've got to give him that.
He's a mobile ruckman.
He is. He's got a good tank, 19 disposals, 7 tackles for a big man's good, but his 9 grabs. 6 in the last quarter when the game was a little bit done and dusted. Are they junk time? For you to decide. But here's a big one for me. 65% time in forward half of the game. Eagles dominated up forward. They had field position. Forward half stoppages. The forwards did really well. 26 to 8. They locked it in there. Gave Nick Nat a chance to weave his craft. 2 goals, 3 from stoppages in forward half. Directed from Nick Nat. 0-0 from O'Brien. Including a classy one that he did all by himself and the point to him.
That goal was special.
I loved it. That was good banter.
What about the defence? The defence has been a bit underrated the last couple of weeks as well. They've really stepped up. You look at 17 intercept marks, 6 from McGovern. He was fantastic. He had 12 marks in total, his first game as skipper.
Yeah, did well. I think Liam Duggan said he needs to work on his pre-game, post-game addresses. Hasn't had a lot of practice there. But the defence as a whole, just 5 marks allowed inside Adelaide's forward 50. I mean, the Swans had that in the first quarter, so they really tightened up their back structure. It was great to see Duggan, Nelson and Cole all play together. Very rare. And they all had very good games. As a collective, they were good. And you've got a 2-time premiership player, Lewis Jetta, knocking on the door. Now, I don't know which player is looking like giving up their spot. It's no one at the present time.
Yeah. Another guy that was good to see out there was Braden Bubba Ainsworth, who played his first game since 2018, his 5th overall, didn't play any footy at AFL level last year, but he's a real fan favourite, isn't he? Look at everyone get behind him when he kicks his goal. It's not his first goal he's ever kicked, but fantastic kid. Is 21 but looks 12.
Yeah, a little baby face. It was great to see everyone get around him. It showed the unity of the boys and the love for Bubba, because I assumed that was his first goal ever kicked, but no, he kicked one back in 2018. Unfortunately missed 2019 through injury, so let's hope he gets a good crack on the wing. Now, I want to talk about the forwards because they haven't got a lot of love of late TB, so they keep telling me. It was a good spread again, as the goal kickers were almost determined. Jack Darling, the only multiple. A good spread. Oscar Allen leading disposal count. He was quality up forward yet again. Second good game in a row there for Oscar. Look forward to hearing him pump himself up on Coast to Coast podcast. Archie providing good pressure up there. Found a home in that forward line. JK was lively, looked solid, just a little bit inaccurate. But Jared Cameron brought into the mix for the first time in 2020 after his groin complaints early in the season.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a lack of opportunity there. Only 59% time on ground. He had 5 disposals, 3 free kicks against. Had some good moments, but I think it's going to be a pretty competitive spot to win. You've got Jermaine Jones, who will come back in about 2 to 3 weeks. Petch, who's been in and out of the side.
Don't forget my man.
Your man from North Beach, Nick Reid, also knocking on the door for an opportunity.
Yeah, correct. No one gives up their spot there either. Let's get to the roast of the round. I'm going to start with Jack Darling, one of the easiest goals of his career. Very stiff from Jake Kelly, this 50-metre penalty. I'll tell you what did him in. He wasn't looking away from Jack. He needed to get the Raw Show clown, the look away, because that's what's done him. He just assumed I'm going to go and tackle you. So it's a stiff 50-metre penalty. I thought Reddo was going to absolutely annihilate the 7th gamer, Will Hamill here. Instead, made no contact. Little tasty little sidestep there. But that was a turnover kick. Let's have a double roast. Oscar Allen, the old right-hand guy to the left foot. Bit unorthodox, but not a bad effort. Just dribbled along, hit the post. Must be a roast.
That's terrible. But what about Jake Waterman? Takes the mark, plays on, holding the ball, bang.
Vicious, I like it. Nick Naitanui, a clear directive to want to run through him as he's trailing O'Brien. This one here from McHenry's coming off the 100-metre dash with Bolt to have a crack at him. Nick Nat retaliates. No dramas with that free kick. Wish Nick got him a little bit harder, if I'm being perfectly honest. But the one earlier in the quarter, Chase Jones. He's just blocking Nick's run to get to this contest. And because the big fella weighs twice as much, I don't want to see that as a free kick at all, TB.
Yeah, absolutely. What about Liam Ryan here, landing on the cricket pitch in the dying stages of the third quarter? Now,
I don't like Gabbett. Sort it out. Get some jungle gym mats out there to help him out. What if Liam Ryan's going to miss the next week or so?
they're trying to keep that pitch nice for the test that they've got over us.
Oh,
against
yeah, just flaunting that one, aren't they, the Gabba?
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
reminding us that test match pitch is looking pretty ripe. Good on you, champions. Barris, good leap last week with the mark of the millennium. Tried again this week, not to be. But didn't the big fella redeem himself 5 minutes later? That's a serious clunk. You know, he still hasn't kicked a goal in his career. Are we going to see him up forward at some stage taking some of those hangers? Because it's so impressive he's taken them in the back half, where if you miss it, it's curtains. Probably a goal against, you know?
Yeah. What about this one here? Dean Kent. Now, fantastic goal. Absolutely fantastic goal. But then he stares at his opponent who's on the ground, taunting him as he kicks it.
Oh, that's vicious from Superman there.
I think that's Clark Kent, Steve.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Now, what about this umpire here, Matt Nichols? Very good umpire, AFL Grand Final umpire.
We don't just bash umpires on this show.
No, but this one here was a communication problem. He calls play on after the mark, clearly calls play on, and then gives the 50. Don't like that.
Not good enough. What about the post-match press conference with Hawthorn? Geez, James Sicily, busy. Was he what? 28 disposals and 14 snags. That's a game for the ages. But the winner, geez, I love having a roast wrapped up by Thursday.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be Riley O'Brien. Life of Riley.
Make your job easy.